Um, Hopefully, you can get some useful information out of this. I am the real underscore G Warner on Twitter. Going to go through the Carabao Cup, which is pretty quick, and then also Serie A returning midweek for reasons I can't explain why they had to take another weekend off and just to play a midweek set of matches. But without further ado, I'll start with today's match. This is recorded on Wednesday the 5th in the U.S. morning time, whatever the heck it is. Chelsea are half a goal favorite right now to Tottenham. Which is a bit surprising to me based on how Chelsea have really struggled to score. And I think Conte has really taken over his style of play and the way that he's managing the Tottenham roster has been really impressive to me. So I'm pretty interested in taking that half. Currently, two advanced lines has Tottenham as a slight underdog. Chelsea minus 145. I'm using lines from Bet Online, despite Dave Mason not being willing to pay me for it. And I got to say, I'm looking pretty closely at Tottenham. I think that they're, I don't know if away goals have been abolished in this competition as well. It's probably something I should have looked up before the podcast began, but you get what you pay for, I guess, at this point. And I really like the way that Tottenham are going and don't like the way Chelsea are playing. They were pretty fortunate, I felt, to get anything out of the Liverpool match after falling behind 2-0. I guess they deserve some credit for that, for fighting back into it. But goal scoring has been a big problem. And I really think that the Lukaku situation just kind of speaks to how poorly managing the front line is going for Thomas Tuchel, who just seems to be complaining about everything everywhere we go. While Harry Kane is starting to look like the old Harry Kane. Maybe he's found some fitness, and Sonny's one of the scariest guys out there. So draw being a win, especially in a tight cup tie, is pretty interesting to me. Next match in England in that competition is, of course, it's not up right now, but it should be Liverpool and Arsenal. And Liverpool were a decent sized underdog. Let's see if I can find a line somewhere else. Great podcasting, I know. Liverpool, I think the biggest story there is missing out on the players who have left for the Africa Cup of Nations, which I think zapped Mane and Salah at the very least from Liverpool, which is a big deal. Mendy, a keeper from Chelsea, I guess, is also gone, but I'm not sure that he matters as much. Let's see. No lines for Liverpool. I wonder if that's been postponed. What I will say is I did look at this line ahead of time. I have not looked at Serie A yet. And Liverpool were 3/4 of a goal underdog, which seemed like a massive number to me. And it's one that I am surprised to see. But to be fair, Salah and Mane seem to play every match for Liverpool, whether they matter or they don't. Like in Champions League, they played a bunch of matches that after they'd already clinched the group, which made no sense to me, and got Jota hurt last year. But I guess Klopp is a smarter man. He knows what he's doing. At that 3/4 number, I was pretty interested, as I thought that line would be significantly lower. But I don't know what's going on over there. So I'm going to move to Italy now, starting with Bologna hosting Inter Milan. Currently, Bologna getting a goal and a quarter. Fairly big number, especially with the 2-week layoff, but and that might really hurt some offensive structures or fluency. The nice part for Inter is they're so deep. They got so many players. And Bologna seemed to be Arnautovic or nothing scoring goals. Had previously been trying to score goals by using their nice goal by Mallorca right now live. Bologna were using pressure and really pushing forward to try to score goals because they didn't have much of an offense. Arnautovic has sort of balanced that out a little bit, but Inter are probably going to name their number here. And I just don't like Bologna enough to really want to back them. So I'm probably not going to do too much with this one and moving on to the next. These are Thursday matches, by the way, tomorrow, starting bright and early, 5:30 a.m. Central Time. Great. Sampdoria hosting Cagliari, currently giving half of a goal. I'm not in love with Samp. They're an aged side that seem to have a bunch of kind of past it type of players. Cagliari have no real goal scoring threats right now. Joao Pedro seems to be their guy, but he's tough to rely upon and doesn't really have a lot of help. They're, speaking of age sides, the Cagliari defense is basically all of the World Cup heroes from South America from 2010. So, and it's 2022 now. Lazio then hosts Empoli, currently giving a full goal. Most of the juice on the Empoli side, but I'm interested in them. I thought that they were playing really well towards the end of the first half of the season or before the Christmas break. Certainly had a setback against Milan, but that happens. And Milan has a good offense. To be fair, though, to Lazio, they also have a very good offense. Giving a full goal seems to be a lot for them based on what their defense does, and which that is a lot of mistakes. Sarri coming in hasn't really changed that too much. And I think Empoli can score here. It really depends a lot on how many goals they concede to Lazio. And I think that with a full goal of insurance, that's still very interesting to me because I think they're going to put the pressure on. And if they get one, Lazio will need 3 to beat me. And I'm pretty interested in Empoli there. Spezia then hosting Verona, currently a pick'em with all the juice on Verona, likely climbing to a quarter. I was going between pick'em and a quarter on this one with a road favorite. Spezia just aren't a team that I really want to back because I think they have to play on the front foot to be competitive, and that puts a pretty weak defense under pressure. Verona have had a disastrous second half of the first half. Started the year off great and really haven't been able to get out of their own way. I'm interested to see if this break helps them because they can kind of take their mind off football because it was not going well. And it seemed like they were pressing quite a bit and just really even playing well and not getting results that they deserve. Next is Atalanta hosting Torino. Atalanta giving a full goal. Torino, another side that started off the year really well, didn't really get the results they deserved, I thought, and then kind of been trending the wrong direction, which is kind of how the Juric team goes. Speaking of Verona, that's exactly what happened last season. I think getting a full goal is a nice number for a team that can play offensively, but Torino are going to want to have the ball and want to extend and push forward. And that leaves a lot of space for Atalanta, which is really scary because they were starting to play a lot better after a slow start to the campaign. I think ended up getting into like the Champions League places, considering their poor start is pretty impressive. Atalanta have forwards and have a lot of attacking players, but we're missing a lot of those guys, and the more time to rest and certainly should get them firing on all cylinders. So maybe that one isn't as big. Despite always being interested as an underdog player in a push on a single goal loss. Sassuolo then hosts Genoa, currently giving a full goal. And I was surprised to see where Sassuolo is sitting in the table, considering how they've been playing. Likely some late goals that have cost them wins is kind of put them where they are. Genoa, no goal scoring really whatsoever. Shevchenko came in from the Ukrainian national team job to take over and really hadn't brought much, and looked like he might not even make it past Christmas. I think he's still there, but goal scoring has been an issue. All the juice is currently on Genoa right now at +1. I think it falls to a 3/4. I will not be involved. And even at +1, I'm not sure that I want to go against Sassuolo. They do have some defensive deficiencies, but their offense is great. And I don't know that Genoa can really get in any sort of shootout or even really score a goal. Next is Milan hosting Roma. Currently, Milan a half a goal favorite with all the juice on the Roma side. It seems a little bit short to me, especially with where other juice is, that this might fall to a quarter. Don't love Milan as they want to play offensive football, and I think a surprising Jose Mourinho side has some offense to it and capabilities, and have been scoring and I think finished the year pretty well. We'll see what happens after the break. And I'm curious about why this number is juiced the way it is. So maybe there's a little bit more to this story. Certainly lean Roma, though, as I'm not a real believer in AC Milan defensively. And I think that they've been missing plenty of players, but we'll see what lineups look like as we get closer to kickoff tomorrow. Salernitana then hosting Venezia, currently getting half of a goal, which is a lot for Venezia to offer with all the juice on Venezia as well. So don't know if Salernitana is missing and has a big COVID outbreak or something like that. But Venezia, seeing them as a big road favorite is a big surprise, and certainly is a way that I would want to go against them potentially here with a lean towards Salernitana, especially if this keeps climbing and Venezia are going to need to win by multiple goals to take my full unit. Fiorentina then hosts Udinese, currently getting a full goal, Fiorentina giving a full goal at home. All the juice on the Udinese side, who keep moving players. I think I saw Wallace or Samir, one of their stable guys that I've seen a lot playing for Udinese, who moved to Watford, who are trying to stay in the Premier League, but dual owners, so the owner owns both the teams and kind of uses one as a AAA team for the other, which is kind of unfortunate for Udinese because I think they're better than Watford seemed to be if they played straight up, but I guess there's more money in England. So as I said, every podcast has many comments have been made about that by friends and family. Thank you for watching. But I think Udine getting a full goal is of interest to me. I don't believe in Fiorentina as a club offense or anything like that. They can probably get one. Vlahovic is pretty good, and Nico Gonzalez hasn't been playing as much as I think he should. but certainly is a real difference maker in that side or that team. Um, I think Udinese, if this fell to three quarters, I'd be less interested for sure. And where the juice is now, it certainly indicates it might happen. But I'm interested just because I don't believe that Fiorentina are likely to win by multiple goals. And I think Udinese, their offense has been a lot better this season than expected. And their defense has been a problem, but I imagine that they're going to be working on trying to get that better under the new manager after I think Luca Gatti was sacked for poor performance in the first half. Next is Juve hosting Napoli, currently half a goal favorite at home. With all the juice on Juve, so looks like it's climbing towards three quarters. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Juve has not deserved that based on how they've played, though Napoli's injury list is long and lengthy, and probably this number indicates that there's not a lot of health that's entering back into the side. I was very interested in Napoli before seeing this number, still interested and very interested in seeing what the lineups will look like. Still no update on the England Carabao Cup line for Liverpool, so I guess I'll leave that alone, though it was monstrous when I first saw it at Bet Online, so maybe there's some truth to that. Going to go through, I guess, the standings in Serie A. Might as well the last few minutes before I probably am going to get pulled off camera. Odds to win, it looks like Inter are the pretty big favorites as we speak, which makes sense based on where they sit in the table, as they are 4 points ahead of Milan, which isn't as big of a lead, I guess, as expected. But I think Inter are a much better club, and they're going to be really hard to see, kind of like we see in the Premier League, where Man City is just simply not going to lose to anybody, and when they don't win is kind of a shock. So the other chasing clubs are going to need some help. Napoli is on 39.7 points back, and they are about almost 9-1, but have a long way to go, make up 7 points with all their injuries. Atalanta have to make up 8 points. Probably should have beaten Inter, but didn't. Late goal, I think, from Inter tied it up. They're almost 12-1, long shots, and probably not even worth going forward or going through even further. But I will at least go through. I don't see any relegation odds either, unfortunately, which is of interest to me, but I don't know. Ever since Five Dimes died, it seems like those mid-year or weekly relegation odds are gone. In terms of the table, I think Inter, as we talked about, should look pretty good to be a second or to get a Scudetto consecutive. Milan, I think, are not really the second best team in this league and probably will be trending downwards. Napoli, depending on injuries, could do the same, or if they get healthy, I think are better than Milan. But that lengthy injury list is pretty concerning. Atalanta, I think, will trend upwards and start really beating the teams that they're playing against, the weaker teams that they weren't really able to do in the first half, which I think has cost them a chance at a Scudetto, which I liked and picked them for before the season. Juve on 34 points, 4 points behind the Champions League places. I'm sure will make a run. But their roster is not very good. Ever since Ronaldo left, I think that was a statement on kind of where they'll be. And they had a really poor first half. I imagine that might get better. But Allegri's try to hold on to 1-0 victories doesn't seem to be a way to work because the defense in this league is not great. The nice part is that there are some pretty weak teams at the bottom. So if Juve are able to get 1-0 leads, they probably can hang on more so than not. The problem is they're going to play some bigger clubs that are pretty close to them in terms of talent, which hadn't been the case in a while. Roma 6th. They're at 32 points, 2 points behind Juve, tied with Fiorentina, and then Lazio at 31. Roma, I think, are going to do better under Mourinho. It seemed like he kind of made it through a slide where everyone hated him, and he kind of hated everybody, saying that he couldn't trust his team, which is hilarious, but that's what Jose does. I think Fiorentina, their offense doesn't do enough for me, and their defense still is problematic. I think they're going to, nice to see them 7th in the league because they're a pretty big club, and they had been hanging around even relegation talk last season. So that's a major improvement for them. But I think Lazio, 1 point behind them, based on their ability to score goals, is probably going to stack up enough points against the bottom of the league that Fiorentina won't be able to do. So I imagine that might change. Empoli, seeing them sitting 9th on 27 points is pretty impressive for a recently promoted side or newly promoted side to kind of hang where they have. Bologna on 27, tied with Empoli, is probably disappointing, but literally their Arnautovic only on offense. And if he gets hurt, which he seems to and is not young, that could be a big problem for them, and likely as a favorite or someone I would want to go against if that's an opportunity. Torino, disappointing, basically sitting 11th in the table on 25 points. Should have been higher in the table, as well as Verona on 24, one below them. Both have played better football than their points tally suggests, but I think goal scoring has been a big problem for Torino, despite a lot of possession, a lot of chances. Verona, it seems like they just can't seem to hang on to points, which is brutal because their offense has been really good, which I think speaks to their defensive liabilities. Sassuolo then sitting also on 24. I imagine they are probably the equally disappointed in where they sit, and I'm surprised to see them 13th in the table. They should be a lot better, and I think we're definitely trending upward toward the end of the first half before Christmas break. Udinese, manager change. Defense hasn't been good. Offense has been better, but that's still a problem for them. And I'm not really sure what to expect from them, but I do think that they probably hang where they are in the table. Sampdoria also tied with Udinese on 20 points. Offense hasn't done much. Their aged defense looks like it's not great, and they'll probably be able to do fairly well against the bottom of the table, but get smacked by the big top of the table. And I hope I will not be backing them much, as I'm pretty through with wanting to deal with them and watch them give up the late goal to kill the push or the half goal win late, because that seems to be what they do. Venezia, pretty impressed by them so far, American owner. So I've been a keen eye on them. 5 points ahead of or 6 points ahead of relegation right now, and 1 point ahead of Spezia. Defense has been pretty good for Venezia, and I think that they've gotten timely goals when they needed it. Not sure that will be able to be sustained, but they did some good buying right before the season, and I'm looking forward to seeing them try to stick around as kind of one of the unheraldeds, but certainly a sophomore slump, if they are able to survive, will be a possibility. But like them as an underdog, and especially a big one, because that's the market hasn't liked them for much of the year. Spezia 1 point behind them, I really don't like, because they have to play offensive football to try to get points. And that leaves their defense at a big, they've given up 39 goals so far in only 19 matches. So more than 2 a match is concerning. But there certainly were some big score lines in there for that reason. Genoa, 5 points behind safety from Spezia, looks very scary with 1 win on the season, matched only by Cagliari with 1 win. And then Salernitana, the last place bottom side, with 2 wins somehow, but only 8 points. So that's the race. They're kind of adrift right now, 5 points away from Spezia, though I imagine that Genoa and Cagliari might be spending some money as bigger clubs to try to catch Spezia. And I think that they are probably more at risk than Venezia, though Venezia certainly may be as well. Cagliari doesn't really seem to be very trustworthy. So that's a big problem. Salernitana, I don't know what the deal is with them. Their offense isn't great. They've got Frank Ribery and not a lot more, it seems, as Ribery's probably like 37 years old. And I think that I've reached probably the length that I can talking about relegation. Salernitana probably should stay bottom, as they were the worst team coming into the league, most likely to be relegated. I'm interested to see what the stalwarts and Serie A vet clubs like Genoa and Cagliari can do to try to stick around. I'm not sure really what's going to happen there, but we'll be very interested to watch. And if you've got any questions, feel free to throw them out at me, _G Warner on Twitter, or in the comments. If anything comes through, I'll try to check them out. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.